Hi everyone, and welcome to the CDS follow-up. And as far as I can see, we are supposed to kind of build some roadmap for Quincy, if I'm not mistaken. What I did is I've used the Orchestrator Quincy Etherpad to write down what things were on the list at the CDS. Plus, I scrubbed through the tracker and through Trello, and I've hoped to come up with a list of kind of high level things that we need to do. I didn't list bugs because that would be overwhelming and wouldn't be sensible. And I also didn't include things that are minor additions to existing features because that would also be kind of explode. So what I would recommend to do, or what maybe makes sense, is to just have a look at the things here and then just decide if it's high priority, medium priority, or low priority, and then we can decide later. Does that work for you?
Sounds good.
Okay. So then let's give us a few seconds per item, and then let's see how fast we are. So refactor Ceph ADM into a proper Python package. High, medium, or low priority? It's a developer experience thing. And
just to clear, are you looking at the Trello board as far as ranking these priority, or are you looking at the tracker
I'm
notes for
looking at
the pad?
the other pad.
Okay.
I've copied the Trello. Or do we want to use a Trello? What did you do for the other?
My preference is to use the Trello just so that everything is there and just track sort
Okay.
of the high level items. Um,
Okay.
but I'm flexible.
So, and we can't properly schedule in high, low, and medium priority. So, but
I think it's just ordering on the list.
yeah. Managed client queuing is already in progress, right?
Yeah.
If we are looking
That's
at
right.
if you're looking at the Ceph ADM column here, it's already at the top. Managechef.com is already in progress. Host drain remove is kind of done already, right?
Yeah, we just need to write the documentation.
Yeah. Clarify host maintenance mode.
That's kind of just for me because I don't understand how it behaves, and I'm nervous that it doesn't interact with scheduling properly. So we can take that off, but that's on my to-do list.
It's just a daemon stop securely or safely for one host. So it doesn't have to do with a scheduler. It just stops the daemon, and it's pretty okay.
My recollection was that helper that I renamed recently, that's all the schedulable hosts, excludes the host maintenance hosts. And if that's the case, then the scheduler is going to move all those daemons.
We have another pull request open that just makes sure that a host that's in maintenance mode is still continued to be used for scheduling.
Okay. Great.
NFS-HA, I think that's kind of in progress already as well.
Mm-hmm.
Host spec crush info. It's a gap that we have compared to Ceph Ansible. I would also keep it there where it is, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Make scheduler handle pod conflict. That's a bit low level. I think that's a bug. Autotune OSD memory. It's hyperconverged infrastructure. I think that's required for downstream. OS tuning is a gap that we have. I'm not so sure about OS tuning. Per node agent exporter, I think it's super important. I think it's a level of NFS-HA, because if we want to have fast reconciliation, then we are going to need the per node agent or per node daemon.
Yeah, I had it there just because it seems like it should come after auto-tuning OSD memory, which is more of a functional graph, whereas the agent thing is only going to be like performance at scale, but flexible.
Faster reconciliation, I would think that we should focus on improving the architecture instead of just improving the speed. Because if we are making really use of the agent to push updates to the manager, then we don't need to improve the performance of the reconciliation loop.
Yeah. It might be redundant. I was thinking the same thing. I can pull that off. Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean that's if the agent gets us the reconciliation speed that we want, then we can just call that one done. Partly I use this list also just so when we finally merge and we're looking at the end of the release and we're trying to build a high level list of the things that we delivered, we can see that we have faster reconciliation.
Okay.
But yeah, we can drop it if you
I mean, my idea would be really to focus on improving the architecture and making sure we can update the dashboard pretty fast, even on really large clusters, instead of maybe sparing one or two SSH connections or cutting the time to query a host by half, because it's not going to. It's increasing the static portion. It's just it's the constant part. You're reducing the constant part, but you're not really having a big impact on larger clusters. That's my problem with just improving the loop.
Okay.
SMB, Samba, kind of important, right?
Yep.
We at least have a look at it. How did you in MDS memory?
We're missing that one's blocked because we don't have the high level config option for the MDS yet. So we have to wait for that first.
There is a blocked label actually. I like the
monitor
blocked
one
label.
though. You do the monitor one.
Ingress from manager.
I'm a little. Yeah.
I mean, it really has some benefits, right?
Yeah. The thing I started a pull request for this and I just kept running into like annoying technical issue after annoying technical issue. It's just really complicated because the manager has so many ports and they can come and they can go depending on if you like turn on a module, then suddenly the HA proxy configuration has to change, and uh, port conflicts, daemons that weren't conflicting before might conflict, whatever. It just got really, it was getting really complicated, and I just, whatever.
I had the same issue. I had a very similar issue. We need to reconfigure the Prometheus daemons if the Prometheus Manager module is getting activated.
Yeah.
It's a dependency between a module within the manager to a different daemon.
Yeah.
And that got super complicated because there are races and I didn't wait for things, so I abandoned that part of as well.
Yeah.
Do we want to put it on the back burner? Move it a bit further out,
That
maybe
was,
we can.
yeah, that was my thought. That's why it's below all the other stuff. It didn't seem as high a priority as like NFS. But it would be nice.
Yep. SMB it's A. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We need SMB first, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Refactor path package. I think it's kind of important, and I would really like to have it because there are so many duplicated code within the Ceph binary without really the ability to refactor at large scale without being able to have proper modules. So I would really like to have it. Maybe we can put it a bit up here.
One thing about this,
Yes.
I think that maybe I don't know. Maybe it is related with the possibility to have some kind of CFDM agent in each of the hosts.
We'll use it less if we have the agent, but we still need that SSH connection in order to run the agent, start and stop the agent, and all that other stuff.
Yes, but what I mean is, if we are going to install the FEDM agent in each node, maybe we could use the same installation of this agent in order to install also CFDM and to convert CFDM in a complete Python package and divide the script in order to use modules and to make more clear maybe we can use the same approach and at the same time convert everything to a proper Python package.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, it would make us less dependent on SSH, which is, I think, a good way to do things. But we would still have the dependency to SSH. That's correct. Okay.
Do we have an intern project or something for doing the Remoto part? Do I remember that right?
Yeah, that outreach or GZAC. So I've added the Quincy label for that. So that's more or less set. And if that project fails, then I wouldn't make it high priority. and just wait the year to fix it in
there's
2022.
Yeah. The only thing to watch out for is that we are using the Remoto bit where it runs Python code remotely for a couple of cases, as opposed to just getting a command. So we need to make sure we sort of cover those effectively.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe 3 cases.
Yeah,
you're adding a new one, right?
Yeah, it's nothing much.
So for putting a new file, we have to replace it then with a different library, but that's doable, right?
For the rest of equivalent.
Repay for OSDs. Is it something that you really want?
It's not high on my list. I'd probably put it below Crimson, but for the maintenance commands, actually, I put maintenance commands first. Oh, that's that YAML for RGW multi-site is already up there in the middle. It's back for RGW multi-site bootstrap.
Perfect. And we can just remove it. Archive.
CPU pinning.
That's Crimson. But I had that request even before thinking about Crimson more than half a year ago already. So it's really something users are interested in having at least the ability to CPU pin an OSD daemon.
So right now we do it through the config options. It's sort of independent of Ceph ADM. But there are certain limitations to what I think. Yeah, my question would be what the requirement there is. That we already have it to some degree. Like if you set an option on a single OSD, you can tell it what NUMA node to use.
Okay.
So the question is whether we need like Ceph ADM to like divvy up the OSDs automatically or something like that. Like maybe that's what we want. I don't know.
Yes. So the issue is coming from here in BlueJeans. So the request was to use IPMCTL to automatically deduce the CPU. But if we have a workaround for that, that's kind of no such high priority to me. Would be great to have it, right? But only if we have the time to do that.
Yeah, the current thing is just super tedious because for every single OSD you have to like set a config option to tell it what to do. But yeah.
But at least it's possible. That's great.
Yeah.
Progress items. That's
what kind of items are we thinking?
Yeah, the progress module items.
Right, but like what Ceph ADM actions would we want progress items for? Like deploying services or something, or
OSDs, for example, is a big issue. The OSDs are popping up for like ages, and a user doesn't have any idea how many are still going to pop up.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, variable groups would be one. I mean, just in general, applying a service when we add remove, that would be an easy one because we calculate what we're going to do and then we do it. We iterate over the list.
Yep. Then tautology workloads. We have a few. but would be great to have more.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can higher prioritize?
For the client workloads?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Put it up here.
Okay.
No. Like my first priority, I think, is just making sure that we have like the smoke, that Ceph ADM subsuite or whatever, that covers as much as possible with short running tests. So like virtually no actual client workload, but just deploying it, making sure it works, and then removing it, and expand the coverage that way. And then it seems like separately, we want all of our stress tests to be migrated to use Ceph ADM where possible. And then I think in a few cases there are actual like Ceph ADM stress tests that we want. For example, like the NFS HA, for example, we should probably create a thrashing test that's like destroying Ganesha NFS servers and running a workload and making sure that clients are behaving and all that stuff.
What about a manager thresher?
Yeah.
Are we really sure that everything in Ceph ADM is idempotent?
No. Yeah.
It's almost idempotent.
It's perfect. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All right, so manager thrasher. That up here too. Okay.
So bind to specific IPs for monitoring services. That's kind of important.
Yep. I did Ganesha as part of the NFSHA thing. It's pretty trivial to do.
Yeah, but it needs to be done, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Don't forget it.
Yeah. What does this dashboard RGW card mean?
So if you're deploying an RGW, you do not have any dashboard integration. So I think for dashboard we need to. I think we need two things, right? Configure the dashboard to know where it needs to talk to, and set up an admin user in order to make the dashboard able to actually do stuff.
Yeah, I would put that into the dashboard. Trello probably. I don't know. I mean, it feels like we really need to there's a whole that, yeah. We need to sit down and have a better plan there because the dashboard uses the API endpoint that doesn't work until you deploy RGW, which means that you can't create realms and zones, which means, I don't know, whatever. That we have to revisit that whole approach.
We talked.
Yeah.
It's another case where you're trying to like run the Kratos gateway admin commands like from the manager, like I had done previously. But we need some solution to do that in a more elegant way.
Yeah, it's come up a couple times in the RGW and dashboard meetings, so I think it's really a dashboard item.
Yes, because we talked about that this process is probably is something that should be executed interactively, okay, in order to see what happened in the moment that you are creating. It's part of the RGW topology. So maybe a wizard or something like that in the dashboard is going to help.
Yeah.
But we really need a plan for that because it's a bit awkward, you know? You're deploying a Redis gateway with Ceph ADM, and then you need to configure the dashboard to actually manage the Redis gateway that you just deployed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so as long as we still have to do that step, then Ceph ADM should do it. But I think ideally we should try to figure out how to work around that requirement. I think we have a rough plan. I just need to sit down with Yehuda and Ernesto and just make sure that right path forward.
Okay.
But I would be inclined to leave this card off until, like, it seems like the Ceph ADM part is actually just the dashboard needs to, when you, if the dashboard is going to do like realm and zone management, then it should like call Orchestrator and actually create them in the dashboard, but I'm not sure if it does that yet.
And that only works for RTWs that are deployed by Ceph ADM.
Yeah.
Over Rook. So if you have an RTW that's not deployed by Rook, do we want to lose the functionality to deploy to manage those? I mean, why not, right? Why not? But
yeah. Well, I think it could get away with doing both, because it could show all of the realms and zones based on the realm and zone config, and if you create one, it'll also deploy it for you. But if it already exists, then you'll just see it. You won't be able to delete. Won't work properly, I guess. It won't shut down the daemons for you. But that'll probably happen on its own. Okay. So is there anything missing from the pad that's not on here?
Yeah, I just copied them over. That's why things just did pop up.
So auth key rotation, I guess, is the last one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it something we care about for now, for Quincy? Or is it something for...
It's already on... It's under the security one. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how big a priority it is yet. I would leave it near the bottom of the list for now.
Everyone happy with the list? Do we have a consensus?
It looks good to me. I think the only thing to do is just make sure it's sort of ordered the way that we're actually going to do this stuff. Like OS tuning could probably move down, maybe. I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not sure how important that is.
We've worked around that. No, Suzu worked around that by putting it into Ceph sort, right? But it actually belongs into Ceph ADM.
Yeah. So maybe it should stay there then. Probably fixing the monitoring IPs can happen before SMB because that's easy. I think the spec for RGW multi-site should happen sooner, probably even before SMB. These progress items also are sort of a low-hanging fruit.
Now you have to properly save the state and kind of continue where we left when restarting them and when failing over the manager. So we have to persistently store them.
Right.
So it's not super low hanging.
Yeah.
I've seen so many issues, so many problems where the progress items that are used in the progress module are not persistent, but only in memory. And I mean, in the original manager module that created those progress items in the first place. And as soon as you fail over the manager, the reference to the progress item is getting lost in the source module. So we kind of really have to persistent for all manage progress items.
Don't they just go away if you're not persisting them? I thought they were.
I think they're persisted in the progress mode.
I mean, it seems like an easy thing to do would be to not persist them and then have them disappear if manager restarts, because most of the time the manager doesn't restart, and these are sort of cosmetic anyway, just to see I'm creating, 4 NFS servers, whatever it is, or deploying a bunch of OSDs. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, especially for like the service creation, the service supply, because the way that the algorithm works is stateless anyway. You look at the existing daemons and you see if there's work to do, and if there is, then you do it. But if you restart the daemon, you just repeat that whole process. So you just create a new progress item. The only thing lost would be, instead of being like 4 out of 6, it would restart and say 0 out of 2, and then continue, which seems fine. Anyway, we can worry about that when we actually do it, I think.
Did we miss anything from that list?
What about the possibility of purge a cluster?
That's got to be out of scope. Because, yeah, Ceph ADM can't purge itself. I mean, I wonder if we want and this is the doc that you're starting, Sebastian, internally, but like if we have an auxiliary Ansible playbook, like maybe Ceph ADM Ansible or something.
One thing about that.
There, yeah.
Okay, I think that it's not possible to execute the Ceph ADM RM cluster in each of the hosts. In fact, we are using a bash file that is doing that. Okay, so I think that, for example, if we have a cluster and, for example, in the Ceph cell, we are moving the monitor and the manager to the host where we are running the Ceph cell. Okay, and after that, we are using an RM cluster in each of the hosts. We are going to remove everything. Okay. And the only thing that we are going to need to clean are OSDs, okay, and OSDs is infrastructure, okay, that I think that is easy because we have the Ceph ADM, Ceph volume command, okay, and after that, even we can remove the files that we have in the backlib Ceph configuration and backlog Ceph configuration. So I think that it's perfectly possible to remove everything, to have only one host, and in the moment that you have only one host, the thing that you need to do is to exit from the Ceph cell and to execute the Ceph ADM RM cluster again in the last host. So you can do that only with two commands, okay? And I think that is clean and is easy and is fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the one thing that we could add would be a command that will look at the Ceph volume inventory and zap every OSD that matches the cluster you're trying to destroy.
Yeah. Yes.
So just like ARM cluster, it would take the FSID and it would like zap.
Yes. So we can include that in the RM cluster command that we have in Ceph ADM in this moment, and just executing this command in each of the hosts, we are going to clean the cluster.
So the problem was orchestrating the cluster removal from within the cluster is that you're optimistic, right? If you don't have a mon quorum, then you can't execute it. If you
he's not talking about the manager module. He's talking about the CLI, the Ceph ADM CLI command running.
I think both, right? Juan Miguel, you're talking about cleaning up the cluster from within the cluster, from within the manager.
Well, you can do that because you have information in the orchestrator about what is the composition of the cluster, but we can do also from the Ceph cell, and sorry, from the host directly with the Ceph ADM binary. But if you want to do that from the inside orchestrator, I think that even that is possible. The only thing that we need to do is to be sure that we are executing in the same host that we have the one monitor and the manager active. It's the only thing that I think that is needed. If you are in that case, you are going to be able to remove everything in the rest of the host.
It's like removing a Kubernetes cluster from a pod within the Kubernetes cluster. Don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we're better off having a Ceph ADM RM cluster with seems like we need two things. We need Ceph ADM like zap all that you pass an FSID, and then have for RM cluster have an optional flag that includes the zap all for that same FSID, so you can do it in one command instead of two. And then when you're going to do when you're going to do the cluster, you just do like a one-line bash that's like for H in your host list, SSH host, ARM cluster, dash dash that.
And we can do that inside Ceph ADM, the binary, I think.
Yeah.
I've
created a tracker actually for that already.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Well, I can add here Ceph ADM that cluster. Something like this. To figure out what to name it. Probably not Zap cluster OSDs, but maybe that should go near the top. Since we're hitting it now.
We can also do it like Ceph ADM RM cluster dash with OSDs. Zap OSDs. I think that's a bit simpler.
Yeah, I just want to be able to do it both ways because it might be that you already did the ARM. The OSD thing is already gone. Or I don't know. Yeah.
It needs to be idempoted anyway.
Yeah, right.
It needs to work without having a working cluster.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, I guess a Zap OSD flag would do the trick. It seems like there's probably a case where you want to zap the OSDs where you don't want to remove all the daemons. So
that's fine.
Whatever. But you can make it work both ways.
That's a good argument, actually.
Okay. Okay.
One more thing about monitoring stack. Do we have any card in order to provide the image that we want to use for the different elements of the monitoring stack in the spec file?
Bootstrap?
Not in Bootstrap. I think that, for example, if I want to apply some kind of customizations, and the most basic is just to say, I want to use this image, for example, for Prometheus or for Grafana, okay? To have the possibility to use an spec file with this information.
I know that a bunch of the specs have an image property, a container image property. I'm not sure if all of them do, but I remember seeing it.
Not sure.
The custom container image spec has a container image property.
Yes, even some of the other ones though, like the HA ones, for example, had a bunch of properties for the keep alive D image and they're optional, obviously, and the HA proxy image.
Mm.
But we should just make sure that the Prometheus one or whatever also has that property.
But it has sense to have a specific spec file for the monitoring stack items. I think that, for example, we can use custom images, but we need to use a Ceph config command in order to change, okay, and to redeploy after that the service. So maybe if we can provide any kind of service specification in order to put this kind of things and other customizations, because this opens the door to include more customizations.
Doesn't that actually work with that you added the possibility to override config options in a spec file, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Service
That's
type.
one option. Yeah.
Prometheus. What is the key config? And then you can say
it's manager / FADM / Grafana _ container _ image, probably something like that.
it actually works already. Right? I've added that into the other pad, but I agree that we need to have some kind of it's too flexible, right? On one hand, it's super flexible to have those config options overwritten by the spec file, and on the other hand, we have too many competing ways to do that right now.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if we should instead drop the service spec property for image and only use the config option, just so that it's all funneling through one way.
Yes, would be an option. That would limit the spec file.
Or we include no, because you can put those in the spec file. Or we can put them in otherwise we have to make sure we have it in every single spec definition, the option to set the image. I think it's not in all of them currently. And then there's also we'd have to audit the code to make sure that there's a pull request that I'm testing right now that upgrades the monitoring containers. And I'm not sure that it's doing the right thing with respect to the config options or the service spec, whatever. I think it might only be looking at the config options.
That's a great argument to not put it into the service spec, because it makes upgrading it easier, because upgrading the service spec is hard, upgrading config options is easy.
Yeah. I think it's also going to be pretty rare, I think, that people do this, right? Like for a downstream version, we don't actually want to use that mechanism. We want to just modify the code so that the defaults are different.
Yes. No, I mean, I can see that for upstream users that have internal registries, they need to do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But they can set they can set that globally on the whole cluster also, not on individual services.
Yeah. Just that would be my preferred option, to have one way to just update all the different default container images. And not you have to change that config option for the Ceph base image, you have to set this config options for the monitoring images, you have to set this service spec property for the HA proxy stuff.
Right.
Having one workflow that just update all the container images,
so
however it looks, right? However it looks.
Container image from specs. Is that what we want to do then?
I think so, yes.
At the top.
Except for the custom container image, because that doesn't work. All right, for the custom container image, you really need the image property.
Wouldn't you just use the config thing? Or isn't that what you're just?
Nah, it doesn't really work, right? If you have a custom container image for SNMP hooks, then you need a specific image for that service. And if you have a
that's how these config options set it under a nested like config scope for just that service. Oh, but you know what? Those won't work for monitoring because those don't pull from. Maybe they do. Have to check and make sure they work for the monitoring services. Yeah, they don't work for the monitoring service. That's the problem. Because they aren't Ceph daemons, and so they don't have a config scope. Which is why they're. Yeah, that's why they're there. But that would only matter if you had like some daemons. One service needs a custom image and a different service needs a different custom image that are both the same type, like two different Grafana's with two different images in the same cluster. And I don't think that'll ever.
We need to be able to have a specific container image per daemon. That's needed for the upgrade. Kinda.
Kind of. I mean, the upgrade is pretty aggressive for the monitoring stuff. We just redeploy it if it's different. There's no there's no pause for the monitoring upgrades, basically. And so we don't need that because there's no pause.
But in general, it would be neat to have some kind of the possibility to have a specific container image for one specific daemon for all daemons, independent of if they're Ceph daemons or monitoring daemons or custom config containers or Azure proxy.
I think that to have different versions for each daemon to open the door to unexpected behaviors and problems of difficult to resolve. Okay, I think that if we decide to deploy a service, Grafana, monitoring, monitors, manage, whatever, we need to use the same image for all the daemons of one service. Another thing is that you can use another different image in another service, but
yeah, I guess I would be inclined to wait until we have an actual use case for somebody who needs multiple different custom images before we worry about it, because it's work to support that, or is what we have now. But it still lets you customize it. It just assumes that all your Grafana's in the cluster are the same, which I think can't really think of a reason why that would not be the case. And we have plenty else to do.
True.
Okay.
Okay, from our side, we can conclude the meeting here, except if you want to talk about HNFS.
What there was that I wanted to check on. It's in pretty good shape, I think. I think the main problems is just that it's a little bit delicate. Like if you start scheduling services that conflict on ports, then things get confused. If I think this might be a problem with Ingress in general. If you delete the backend service and the front end service, it might throw an assertion, or in some cases I noticed that in the prepare create and generate config functions. If those throw assertions, they get swallowed and aren't shown anywhere, which made debugging interesting. These are all sort of unrelated to NFS specifically, but we should clean that up at some point.
Yeah, we need to bubble up those errors, right?
And documentation. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I'm wondering about the biggest thing actually that has to happen with the NFS thing is just testing. Like it all fits together the way that I think it's supposed to fit together, but I need to actually fail the daemons and make sure that I'm just guessing at the HA proxy configuration, and we need to actually test it. There are like a whole set of timeouts in there that I'm not sure what values make sense in the HA proxy config. And then the other thing that has me, I think the thing that most worries me is that by default, the NFS service is on port 2049, the NFS port. But if you're going to use HA, then that's the one that should be on 2049, and the backend NFS port should probably be something different in case they get scheduled on the same hosts. 2049, yeah. And so I'm wondering if the NFS service should default to a different port, but the expectation that you'll then apply HA, or not. I don't really know. It also seems weird to have NFS default to not run on the NFS port. So,
I mean, if we make sure that our documentation really states that you really are encouraged to use the HA NFS, then I think we're good. And then if we have a dedicated section about, having two sections, right? One section supposed to look like so. But if you really want to have NFS Ganesha without HA, then you need to set the port for NFS Ganesha to the default port 2040.
Yeah. Oh, I guess this is sort of related. It came up in the review. There's still this OSD spec affinity thing.
Yeah.
I was always confused by this before. I never fully understood it, but I think now that we have the service name property on all the daemons, like, is that obsolete now?
It's like we are putting it's not completely obsolete. It's more or less obsolete, but it's not completely obsolete. If the OSD spec affinity is the OSD drive group, the OSD spec name, but it's written down into the LVM tags. So if you plug out one drive, put it into a different server, and then recreate the daemons, then we kind of lose the ability to assign service names to it, but the OSD spec affinity is part of the LVM tags, so it can be resurrected using the LVM tags. So it's not completely obsolete.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, if you do that, then we have a bug because we then have two different. We have the same daemon name on two different hosts. We need to periodically in our reconciliation loop go over all the daemons, find duplicates, and delete all daemons that are if we have pairs of daemons and have one that's active and running and one that's down and broken, we have to delete the broken daemons in our reconciliation loop. That's a bug.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Because users are actually doing that. You're moving one disk from one host to a different. What in that case? What about the crash map? What's the right now the crash map is in kind of wrong because it's that drive is then hooked under the wrong host.
Yeah, the OSD figures it out. When the OSD boots up, it reports to the monitor and updates its location.
Okay, so it actually works. Perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
No. Okay.
Cool. All right. Looks good.
Have a lot of fun with NVN Evo Fabrics.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.